You think this gigantic flask has anything to do with this video? You're fucking wrong! Hit that music!
Movies, music, story times, all kinds of shit for you. Everything goes in this house tonight from
So, I know we like a great variety of music. You know, we're not stuck on one genre alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's got a job.
I was full of piss.
Yeah, it was.
Probably should have checked. But anyway, yeah, man, we're not stuck to one specific genre. We like a wide variety of things here at $10 Slimer. Although I guess at certain times we like something more than the other, which obviously gives way to the notion, like most people, we have bands that we absolutely love. And if we have that, at one point or another we thought, man, there's these guys and or girls can do no wrong. But then comes that day when they disappoint, and you're like, man, ooh, this wasn't that great. So the question I have for you is, do you have any moments like that in your history?
Yeah. I got this most recent one. I've been going through the Creedence, and I like them quite a bit.
Creedence Clearwater Revival?
Yep. Clearwater, just to clarify your weird little alien speech you had there.
The CCR?
Yeah, CCR. Been listening to them. Listened to all their little albums, and I got to the last one. Woo! It's a stinker. Now, I do want to stress that the good songs are the ones that John Fogerty wrote and performed. All the other ones can suck my caca dry. And it's made even worse by the fact that there were being little complaining little turds wanting more screen time and more like attention on that final album. And so our boy Johnny F was like, all right, you can have it. You can, I'll only do 4 songs. All you assholes can do the rest. Did it. Sucked. Got critically destroyed. And then the freaking band broke up. So that's funny. But yeah, it's a
followed by Dead Silence.
That's funny. It's a really bad. It's a bad album. It's the only one I don't have, and I do want to get it. I just don't want to pay more than freaking $10 for it, because it's not good. It only has 4 good songs.
Yeah, that's always a bitch when you want to complete something, just because you like the band and a performer, but you know it sucks so much ass that you're unwilling to pay anything for it.
Yeah.
And you pray for the day you find it at some secondhand shop in perfect condition.
No one wants this one.
Fuck.
It's freaking sucks, man. It's like it took all the cool little freaking John Fogerty has a ugly voice, but it's kind of intense in that good way. A little a little rockin' little 60s intense voice. Nope. Just replace it with these assholes who can't sing worth a shit and don't even have that little intense voice. They just stink. Not only that, but freaking John Fogerty, one of the few songs he does perform in it is a cover of Hello Mary Lou. And he sounds bored as shit half the time. Probably because he knew that the rest of the album was going to suck and didn't even bother to make it a good cover. It's not a good album, is what I'm saying here. But at least it's still the band. Ooh, this other story is one time I bought a Stray Cats CD from the Dollar General.
Always a good mark.
Yeah, and this was during the phase where I was really getting into that style of music. So I was like, hell yeah, dude, $5, let me buy that shit. Live album, which is already bad, and this was bad.
You have an aversion to live albums.
I don't like live albums,
which I may have contributed to, because I've ragged on them before. But there are like tons of great live albums.
Yeah, there are great live albums.
It's just this specific one fucking sucks.
It was some freaking recording in the backwoods of Missouri. I don't know what that means. But it was clearly in some bullshit ass bar or something. And some asshole had his little freaking cell phone out, even though it was the 80s. And it just sounded like crap. Like me farting into this mic would have been a better recording of a Stray Cat song somehow. I put that baby in and was like, ooh, this is a stinker. Broke it in half. Shat on it. And it sounded better. And my final story of that kind of purchase was I bought a Motorhead album once from Kmart. Let's just say
the places you select in your music.
Let's just
calling
say
stuff into question here.
Let's just say this is probably the only reason Kmart went out of business, because they freaking sold this freaking CD that sucked my dingling dry. It was again a live album, and Lemmy was clearly on his 18th Jack Daniels or some shit. Freaking dead. It's probably recorded now when he's in the grave. Freaking asshole, he could barely understand it. Like, and again, it was recorded on that shat-on mic. So those two are the worst purchases I've ever made in my life. Or are they? Nope. Spaghetti Incident was.
Yeah, see, and that one had no excuse. That was a studio album. Now, if you don't know what the Spaghetti Incident is, it's a covers album from Guns N' Roses, which, personally, I don't enjoy Guns N' Roses. I enjoy some of their songs.
Yeah.
I'm not a Guns N' Roses fan. I damn near hate them. Or really, I hate Axl. But just the music alone, I'm not big on it. I do enjoy some of the songs, though.
The reason why I bought that album...
Shit,
the reason why I bought that album is because you had a album...
Use Your Illusion 2.
Which I really liked, and I thought that was a cool album. So I saw this baby at Lena's, and it was like, hell yeah! I was being a little her Cumbia King's loving daughter was hitting on me, and I was like, hell yeah! I'll buy this Spaghetti Incident. Got home, listened to it, vomited in my own ears, so I would stop listening to it. Broken in half, shat on it, and it sounded better.
That is one of the worst cover albums fucking ever.
It was so bad, dude.
First of all, the name and cover alone make you detest it. Yeah. It's literally just spaghetti on the cover.
Yeah. And
the name Spaghetti Incident, I get it. It's a covers album, all kinds of covers. Fucking sucks. Terrible. Terrible. Just the worst person / band to cover any material that's not their own, because shit wants that style mixed with anything else. Anyway, I have a few. My first example is kind of in reverse. Mm-hmm. I discovered this band, which is one of my favorite bands, and that's Arch Enemy. I discovered this band. Oh man, I can't remember the fucking name of the album, but anyway, it was the first album with Angela Gossow as the lead singer. And as far as I knew, there was no other album before that. I thought this was the album, and I listened to it, immediately fell in love with the band, bought all their other stuff at that, at that precise moment. I think they had just released Doomsday Machine. Anyway, I bought all their stuff, and I love the band to this day. They've since changed a lead singer to Alyssa White Glues, who I also greatly enjoy as a lead singer. Which is rare, when the band goes from one singer to another. Sometimes that's an iffy change. It could cause you to hate the band all of a sudden. Well, that wasn't the case with this. But then, before Alyssa White Glues came into the picture, I was like, Angela kicks ass. Band's great.
Liquor butthole.
Definitely liquor butthole. And then I was like, oh, what the hell? They used to exist before Angela Gossow? So I looked those albums up. And it turns out I had already heard them before. I was with a friend. He says, hey, check this band out. And I was like, I was harsh on that fucking band. I was like, fuck, man, that shit sucked. And he agreed with me. But when I discovered, so to speak, Arch Enemy again with Angela Gossow, I went to him again. I said, man, I discovered this band. They're fucking badass. Listen to them. And he's like, what's their name? And I go, Arch Enemy. And he's like, you mean the band that you told me sucked ass? And I'm like, what? And that's when it all just clicked into place. And I was like, wait a minute. So I did a little bit more research, and I found out that they had a previous singer, a male singer. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be fair. I'm going to revisit this stuff. And it wasn't all terrible. It's just that it was more of an instrumental band, and the instrumental shit is badass. It's downright jaw-dropping. The Amat brothers are great musicians, guitarists, and all that stuff was great. It's just the singer and the topics. It was one of those where the albums would be like, I like 2 songs in it, and the rest I'm just, I can't. The lyrics and the singer just are terrible. And I know there's people that still like that guy. I can't even remember his name, and that's fine. But I still can't get used to him.
It's like Faith No More situation.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, it was with Angela Gossow did a covers album of old Arch Enemy stuff before she came on. And I love those versions of the fucking songs. It was just that guy. For some reason, he's a complete stinker. But yeah, so that was kind of like in reverse. But I'll tell you one that was forward. I'm all about the Misfits. I love the Misfits. have always loved the Misfits. I even love the current incarnation of the Misfits, even though Jerry Only should probably just stop fucking with shit, although he's getting better, so that's good. But still, I love the Misfits, but mostly I love the original Misfits, you know, with Danzig at the lead and basically orchestrating everything. And he eventually gave up the band and went on and formed Soen, who a lot of people know as Samhain. Now, Soen had a very lo-fi approach to the recording. And it's not that the music was bad, it's that, fuck, man. You know,
like me listening to their music live and then trying to perform it here would be better audio quality.
Yeah, it was really bad audio quality. And if you know punk, which the Misfits were, horror punk, albeit punk, that's part of the appeal of punk, that it's self-made, that it's lo-fi, that you know, these people did it for the integrity of the music, not for some corporate greed or some shit like that. That's the punk appeal, though. Someone was supposed to be a step up, and it's like he decided, you know what, I'm gonna up my credibility by turning every dial down to shit level and record that. And it sounds like a fart most of the time. I mean, it's muffled. You can barely hear his voice, which already was a problem with the Misfits sometimes. You know, it's just awful production quality. But you know what? It still wasn't so horrible that I hated Danzig. And he went from Soen to form Danzig when Rick Rubin, the mega producer, found him.
Was like, hey, maybe we should actually listen to your freaking voice, you asshole.
Yeah. And you know, and the thing is, there was a voice to listen to there. Danzig has some impressive vocals, some very unique vocals. And Rick Rubin was like, yeah, exactly. What the fuck, man?
Covering that shit.
Need to put this shit up front. Yeah, and if you know Rick Rubin strips people down to the basic core essentials and then records that. And that's what he did with Danzig. He stripped them down to the voice and basic instrumentation of metal, and they produced together 4 albums that are considered legendary. Danzig 2 Lucifuge, How the Gods Kill, and Danzig 4. Classic fucking metal albums. Get them now. They're awesome. But then Danzig, in all his wisdom, decides, hey, you know this guy that took me from a punk legend to a legitimate artist? I'm just going to say, fuck this guy and produce my own shit because I know better.
I don't need his little beard.
I don't need a little beard. I don't need his weird hippie ways. I don't need none of that shit. I don't need the fact that he's a legendary producer. I'm just going to do this on my own. P.S. I'm not even going to continue in the vein of what I was doing and everybody loves. I'm going to do my own thing. Now, I have respect for any artist that dares to defy expectations and do something different. Respect. But here's the problem with Danzig, okay? He came literally from a self-made style of music. He taught himself. He did things himself. He was not that well versed to go into what he did next. And what he did next what was popular at the time, which made me kind of disrespect him too, because he didn't just do something unique and different. He did something that was popular at the time. And at the time, industrial metal was popular because of 9 Inch Nails being so big at that particular moment. So that's what he decided to do with a fucking album, Danzig 5, Black Acid Devil. Shit! This was one of the most infuriatingly shitty sounding albums of all time. First of all, as an industrial album, it fucking sucks. This is a man who thinks that this is what industrial is about and thinks it sounds cool. But it really sounds like an old man trying to do industrial.
Old geezer trying to be cool.
Yeah, and he wasn't even old then. That's the fucked up part. But it sounds like a 60-year-old man tried industrial. And then on top of that, despite having all this knowledge already behind him, he decides, hey, I'm going to shroud my voice behind effects. Layer on all these synthetic effects over my voice. The voice that made me famous, I'm going to just hide it behind all these effects. Make the music so loud that you can barely hear me half the time. And by the way, all the songs are going to suck, except for 2, and one of them is going to be a cover song. That album fucking disappointed me so fucking bad, man. And here's the thing, Black Acid Devil is hard to find, probably because he's like, fuck this shit, I'm going to bury this in a vault somewhere. But it's so hard to find that I sought this album out, like you know, the Holy Grail or some shit. I finally found a copy. And, man, I regretted that crap.
You were like, whoop.
when I burned that shit onto my library, I just burned those 2 tracks. And I've never even gone back to listen to the album past the handful of times that I listened to it. The follow-up, thankfully, was a little better, and thankfully went away from industrial. But he didn't fully come back into form until Danzig 7, E. Luciferi, which unfortunately had him doing this
His little claws.
with his little claws. But at least it was back to form. But yeah, man, that was a big fucking disappointment for me. I was like, what is this, man? What made you think that this was gonna be a good change right here? It was fucking terrible.
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually following that structure, and not just me buying shitty copies of or shitty versions of cool music. It's a band I've talked about before, and a band I'm not super proud of loving. But it's my boys Aqua, and I don't even remember why we started listening to it, but we saw a couple of vids, and you're like, you know what, this ain't that bad. And then we remembered our boy Guardian had the CD for some ass reason. The reason being he liked Barbie Girl, and thus he bought the album. And we told him, hey, bring it over. And he's like, these assholes are freaking mocking me again. And then you're like, no, for real, bring it over. Took some convincing. But he finally brought it. And listened to that baby. And whoop, I'm not going to say I loved it, but I did. There was only 2 songs that sucked massive dinglings, but the rest I really liked. And then once I got to the second one, Aquarium, boo. I hate that album.
The second album?
It freaking sucks my ding off, dude. It sucks so bad. And then the third one came along, and the Guardian imported it for $10 trillion because it's not released in the U.S. And that baby kicks ass! But yeah, the second one sucks assholes.
I haven't listened to anything past the first one, but I found one thing is true about Europop. It generally all sounds the same, but for some reason it's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Sax guy.
It just reminds me of those scenes in all these European action movies where, they go into that illicit, dark club.
Like Blade's gonna be there and shit.
Yeah, Blade's gonna be there for some fucked reason. But yeah, so I can't really venture to say that the second one sucked. So I'll leave it at that. But I get you. It's that moment where you're like, oh man,
yeah, this is not good.
And here, that's the thing. It's called the sophomore slump. The second album is usually the hardest to do.
Yeah.
If you've had a first album that hit it big, the second album is the hardest. You have to prove yourself. You have to go beyond a Call of Duty. You have to step up. And so few have done it well. So the question that I have for you is, what is a sophomore album that you can think of that stepped up the quality, stepped up where they stepped up their game, where you were like, damn, versus the first album?
Shit. You have any?
The one I can think of off the top of my head, the one that brought the question to mind was Lorde. Now, I got home and, Lorde was a big thing while I was away. And I saw a few performances of her that made me go, man, I gotta check this chick out. This is very interesting, a very minimalist approach to pop music, and the fact that David Bowie gave basically a stamp of approval to her was like a big thing for me. Like I have to explore this person more. So when I listened to Pure Heroine, I was pretty impressed. I was like, man, this is, as Bowie said, the future of pop. Hopefully, because pop, as we know, can get incredibly vacuous, especially here in the States. So I was very hopeful for the second album. So much, in fact, that I was afraid, and it's rare that happens with me. Like it happened with Rammstein when I fell in love with Rammstein. Yeah. I was like, oh man, the second album's coming out.
Gonna stink.
And I was one of those few people in the States that knew about Rammstein before the second album, So while a lot of people came to know him as the Du Hast guys. Man, that pisses me off to this day. Oh, you mean Du Hast? Yes, you fuckers. Yes, that one song that was in every fucking movie ever. Yes, that one. That's the only thing they've ever done, you asses. But anyway, but it was the same concept. I was afraid for the second album because I know it can make and break a band. But I was so afraid of Lorde's second album that when Greenlight came out, which was the first single, initially I was kind of thrown off by it. And I've since discussed it with some people that are fans as well, and they were the same way. Like they got the same impressions of it. Like this doesn't feel right or something, right? But I chalked it up to that fear having an effect on it because I love Greenlight. It's by far my favorite. I mean, it's not by far my favorite on the album, but that initial reaction was that, and then I realized that I've had that reaction before. But yeah, man, once I actually listened to the album, I was like, this chick not only stepped up her fucking game, this is a classic album. It's minted classic. But that's just one of my examples. What is it?
I looked I was doing a little research to see if it was their second album. Unfortunately, it wasn't, so I don't have a pick, unfortunately. That's it.
And that's how the story ends.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the idea of somebody disappointing with an album, and I'm going to touch on somebody that Rick Rubin had dealings with, but this was before Rick Rubin had dealings with, and that's Johnny Cash. And you and I both love Johnny Cash, and there's eras to Johnny Cash, if you know anything about the Cashter.
Chicken and Block.
There's the rock and roll era, there's the rockabilly era, there's the country era, there's the gospel era, and there's the dark ages, and then there's the American recordings era, which I think is his best work. And that's the stuff he did with Rick Rubin. But right before that was the dark era, the fall from grace. He had been with Columbia so long that they just treated him as an easy buck, an artist that they just knew was, that's the guy that everybody knows, Johnny Cash. Just churn out another album, will you? And he was just uninspired, and they were forcing him to do stuff. And that's around the time we got bullshit like Chicken and Black and that Snake song and all that garbage.
I had a CD that had Chicken and Black.
I mean, it's not something to be proud of for sure, because fuck, this was an artist that didn't give a fuck at this point. And, already this is gonna sound bad, but already the music he was producing is pretty disposable. You know what I'm saying? There's a disposable quality to country of that era, and that's what he was mostly known for at that particular time and place. That he was cemented as a legend, I mean, that's obvious, but that's mostly from the Sun recording era.
And shortly after,
yeah. But at this point,
he was mostly
known as the.
It was already past the dark era of the freaking 70s country scene.
Yeah.
All that shit.
This was just like throwaway stuff he was producing. But now this was bereft of any creative desire or anything. It was just utter garbage. So the first time I heard any of that product from that time, I was like, ooh, I can't even fucking. What is this? And then the thing is, it took me so long to even ever hear that stuff because
it's kind of
majority of the exposure that you get to Johnny Cash if you go and buy a CD is compilation albums or re-releases of the good stuff.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing that you see with artists like that, like Merle Haggard is a perfect example of that. He has a lot of songs, but a lot of them suck because they were in that dark era. But the songs are good or badass, and the Cash is an example of that. This guy never stopped recording, so he's got a buttload of kind of poop tunes.
Yeah, and but yeah, that was super disappointing when I first ever heard that. I was like, "What is this?" And thankfully, by then I had already heard the American recordings era and knew that he had redeemed himself and said, "Fuck that noise! I'm not doing that shit anymore." But still, even then, I was like, "Man, this happened." And it helped that he was like completely unattached to wanting to do that stuff, but it was that bad that I was like, man, take this dog out behind the shit and shoot it. Fuck, stinks.
Was there any as a conclusion to this little vid? That I don't know what the structure of it is. Is there any premiere or name a premiere album that you were like, oh, this is my shit. This is my new band.
There's a lot of those. A band coming out the gate strong can be a great sign, or it could be a sign of doom. The sophomore thing usually kills. I'll mention a few that came out the gate strong and stayed strong or got better. And one that sticks out, just right now at the top of my head is Devil Driver, who had the lead singer of had previously been in Cold Chamber, And that was a band that had a few songs that were fun to listen to, but I wasn't all too into that noise. Didn't help that Sharon Osbourne was producing. We don't know how that can be.
And ICP.
And they had a weird feud with ICP. That was odd. But yeah, man, it wasn't my bag. And but I discovered Devil Driver at a concert. They opened a 12-hour music fest. I can't remember the name of that tour, but anyway, the point is they were the opening act, and there was nobody there. And they were like, well, I don't know why they stuck us here, but fuck it. All 12 of you are going to have a show. And let me tell you, I was impressed. And at that point, they had barely released their first album, their eponymous first album. And I went and snatched that little baby up. And I was like, man, this shit is fucking off the walls badass. And they've only increasingly gotten better since then.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. Anyone you want to throw out?
Yeah. I want to start with this is a personal preference, I think, like big time, because I know your opinion differs, and so does Guardians. But in my opinion, Garth Brooks' first album is his best one, and there you go. From the beginning, I was like, "This is my boy," and he kept his freaking quality up pretty well up until Sevens. At which point we all shat on half the freaking CD. But that first album is still my favorite, and pretty badass.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's. I'd say, I mean, it falls into the category you asked in terms of it was an impressive first album, and he only got
He's your
better.
boy now.
Yeah, so it falls into that category. Do I think it's his best album? I vacillate between this or that.
I don't think it's his best in terms of musicality and his voice, polish. It just kind of falls into my personal preferences of country, where it's just kind of bare bones, and he's not particularly great vocally in that album, but there's a kind of like vulnerability to his, not so greatness on the mic. It kind of reminds me of Cash, in that he's not good, but you can really feel the desire of him wanting to be there.
Yeah.
And so in terms of that, I think it's his best album.
Yeah, it's a good example. I would say his worst is still Sevens.
Yep.
Man, woo, that was a. Here's the thing about Sevens: if you cut a bunch of them out,
It's a pretty good album.
it's a good album. It just has a lot of bad songs in it. I mean, if you cut those suckers out, you have a decent album there. Fortunately, they're still
They're still in there.
they're still in that sucker. Oh, another one is Rammstein. And
Yeah.
I was first introduced to Rammstein through Herzeleid, and it was not long after that I was. I mean, they had already released it, but it was not long after that Sehnsucht came out. But from the moment I heard Herzeleid, I was like, this is my shit, and I've been Rammstein fans ever since then. It's been a long time. It's probably the band I've liked the most for the longest time. Barring the Misfits. Yeah, I have a tattoo themed of them on me, But yeah, barring the Misfits, this is probably the band that I for the longest have liked. And yeah, it was right out the gate. Just a strong debut, and they've only gotten better since then. So that's fucking win.
I got a debut that I liked. It was a little band's kind of apparently not around anymore, which might be good because CeeLo Green's kind of insane, and that's Gnarls Barkley. I freaking love their first album. It's kind of eerie if you listen to it in order. It gives you an uneasy feeling, and I stress that you listen to it in order because that's how it's meant to be. Each song goes into the next, and it's kind of like at times it's kind of disturbing sounding. The weird mixes of sounds that they put in, and at times it's kind of like fun, but for the most part it's disturbing and kind of dark sounding. And CeeLo Green, I know he's insane now, but he has a pretty good voice for that style of music. Fortunately, I only had 2 albums. Never listened to the second one, which is on me. I'll fully admit it might be good, but that first one was so good that I was scared to listen to that second one to this day. I do have to listen to it though.
Has there ever been a band that you liked initially? Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Yes.
Has there ever been a band and or performer that their best album is their first one, and they might be still good, but their best album is still their first one.
In my opinion, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. Their first album is good.
Definitely, I agree with that.
Their first album is genuinely pretty good, pretty fun. It's got a freaking Mr. Prince strap suit and shit. You're like, pretty good. It's still not up to the quality of something like Zoot Suit freaking Boys. What are they called? Cherry Pop and Daddies. It's not up to that quality, but it's pretty good swing of that time. Their other releases are,
yeah,
they were okay, and then
yeah, I mean that's really an extreme example because after their initial release, that's it.
They have
likable songs here and there, but
for the most part,
as an album, you're like, that's not great at all. But yeah, I agree with that. Here's one that it's not their quality didn't decrease like that, but I still think that their best album is their first one, and that's Garbage. Again, I love everything they've done afterwards, and some even get close to being as good as the first album. But the first one is so good that I don't think it'll ever be touched by themselves. That sounds kind of weird, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I think that's an example of one that it's set in stone that that's going to be their best one.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean they're already far into their career, and it's pretty safe to say that that's a done deal as far as that goes. Even though they to this day produce quality stuff. At first one, doubt.
Yeah, I hear some karaoke and it's terrible. What's the most? Oh,
I don't know what the fuck that was, but
what flip was that?
It was my album.
What's a random
dropping now?
Can you mention any random CDs that you bought and were like, hey, that's pretty good? I can. Cumbia Kings.
I don't really like to buy music on a lark. I like to explore first, then go and buy the albums. So, really off the top of my head, I can't think of...
Cumbia Kings?
Thankfully, I've never bought a Cumbia fucking Kings album. I can't think of anything I bought on a lark. I can't think of shit that I bought for reasons that are not musical.
What?
That I hate.
What?
Example. There's this Mexican pop singer from the 90s called Thalia.
Yeah.
Who I thought was smoking hot. And for some reason, that was enough for me to buy an album or two. And they're a fucking terrible album.
Yeah, most of them are
horrible. Yeah. I didn't have most of them. That's the sad part. I had a good handful of them, but that's not even close to most of them.
That's a good point. Mexico, they release albums.
She's already
released like 14 in the past 2 seconds.
Yeah. So I regret that because that fucking...
I got one for you. Limite. You were a fanboy.
Oh, I like Limite.
No, but the pop one.
Oh, no, that was a piece of fucking shit. So, Limite is a Mexican band, and they, sang Mexican music. But it was kind of like a regional styled Mexican music, which if you aren't Mexican, you probably won't like. But the point is, I enjoyed them as that. And then they decided to change genres, which again, as I've mentioned, I'm okay with if they dare to do that. Thing is, these people were not suited to do that, and fucking shit stunk. And that was awful. That was not good. I mean, it didn't even make sense, that genre jump. That's like Ozzy Osbourne deciding right now, hey, you know what I'm going to do for my next album? I'm going to do a duet with Britney Spears, and it's just going to be whole hog high school pop.
Yeah.
Me included. That's what that was. But this makes no sense.
Suddenly they're all hip hop.
Speaking of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne led. That's generally the Sabbath everybody loves the most. And I would agree, the best Sabbath stuff comes from the Osbourne era, but a close second would be Dio, and I think that's the only era. Had he done more, I mean, I think he would have trumped Ozzy. But that's one where like you have to treat the band in eras because there was so many lead singers and creative directions.
Yeah.
And the next one, I can't remember. It was the guy from Deep Purple did the next album. And that album's a fucking stinker. Man, what is it called? Born Alive or some bullshit like that? Or I don't know what the fuck. It's the one with the fucking ugly ass fetus on the cover with that song Zero the Hero, which is the only listenable one, really.
So that's good.
And that's bad. Yeah, I hate that song. What was his name? Ian something? I don't know what the fuck. But I think an era of the band that gets a lot of flack that really doesn't deserve that much flack is the Tony Martin era, which has been really the one that's released the most fucking albums with Black Sabbath. And there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I think that deserves a revisit from people that generally threw it away because, let's face it, the guy is not Dio or Ozzy, so he's just going to get thrown out the window by most listeners. But there was a lot of good shit in there, and I really enjoyed some of that stuff that they put out during that era. But yeah, I mean, obviously, fucking Ozzy and I mean, come on, and Dio. That's a hard fucking
Follow-up.
Yeah.
I got a final music-related question to end this little vid, and that is, can you name one cover that is better than the original in every way? Song. You want I can go? Let's give you some time.
Go ahead.
I think, and no, I believe, and if you try to freaking go against me, I will fight you. That the California
and lose
and lose that the California Raisins have the best version of "Heard It Through the Grapevine" known to man. Not only is it better than
I'm the first one to have discussed ever apparently.
Yeah.
But here, amidst friends and family, I'm the first one to have come across the California Raisins
Phenomenal.
album. First of all, you could order this thing through Kellogg's Raisin Bran.
Yeah.
And I ordered it. I cut them little box tops off back in the day.
Yeah.
And
we were poor as shit, so it was like a big thing.
Yeah, it was a big fucking deal. I finally got my little fucking cassette tape of the California Raisins. And really, it was a superficial thing because I thought the raisins were cool looking in the commercials.
They were really cool.
But lo and behold, this album is full. That's not the only fucking cover. It's covers.
Yeah, it's
the album is covers. Whoever they got to perform as the Raisins, I mean, obviously they're not raisin people, but, they're actual musicians.
Yeah, they're actual musicians. The singer, I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but he was a pretty legendary performer. He was the drummer for Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
And then went on to do his own solo shit, which is actually pretty good, So they're actual musicians.
Yeah, and those are some studied musical legends, even you might say, studio musicians and otherwise. But they did a phenomenal job with not just I Heard It Through the Grapevine, but this entire fucking album.
It's pretty good.
Off the fucking easy, man. This is
great.
What are some other songs on it?
A little Lean On Me.
Lean On Me,
I don't remember.
Anyway,
good.
Yeah, classic songs from the 60s and 70s.
Soul, mostly, yeah.
Soul, R&B, doo-wop, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And just, I know it sounds crazy, but this is one of the best cover albums ever of all fucking time, and it's the California Raisins.
I'm looking up who the artist was because he deserves to be known.
I mean,
yes.
To be fair, nobody's gonna watch this videos.
That's a good point. But
so he'll probably hate us for mentioning him, even though he's dead.
He's dead, yes, unfortunately. But anyway, I will fight anyone who says that there's a better version of Heard It Through the Grapevine. I am a big Creedence fan, as mentioned in this video, and their version sucks my dingling compared to the California Raisins.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I can't find who was in there. So
some dead guy.
Buddy Miles was the singer. Classic. He was 60 when he died, and he's from Austin, Texas. So that's the information I can give you.
Yeah. Shockingly, one of the best fucking cover albums ever, and it's a fucking Raisins album.
Yeah.
Now they went on to do other Raisins album, but you got to get that first one. It's the first one, right?
Yeah,
I believe.
The second one has like a couple good songs, like on the dock. What's it called? Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I'll say that too. Their version is the best one. And it's in the second album. The second album isn't as good because they started getting in female raisins, and the female raisin wasn't that great.
But just assuming these are raisin people at this point.
Yeah, but the first one, those raisins were that cover of freaking Heard Through Grapevine is the most soulful cover, and it comes from a goddamn dried grape.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, that sounds weird, but it is.
Yeah.
For my answers, I think every cover that Marilyn Manson has done has gone on to supersede the original in some fashion or form. So I'm just going to put that out there. But I'm a big fan of covers. I actually, sometimes for some reason just prefer them just by nature of the weirdness of this particular artist doing this particular song. So, I mean, there's so many I can't even fucking pin one down. Let me see. Another one would be Arch Enemy's cover of what's it called? Symphony of Destruction from Megadeth. I really enjoyed that. I mean, there's just tons of them. Danzig's Hand of Doom was awesome, and it was on that shitty fucking Black Acid Devil album. That fucking
his cover album was good.
Oof, an album. Oof. But anyway, yeah, there's plenty of them. I like a lot of covers. If you want to if you're a metalhead and you want to get the weirdest cover album of all time, there's two of them actually, and that's Graveyard Classics from 6 Feet Under, which if you don't know who 6 Feet Under is, well then just buy the album and find out.
Yeah.
By having your ears destroyed, but they do a pretty extreme cover version. The first Graveyard Classics is a bunch of classic rock and early metal. Everything from Deep Purple to what have you. That other guy. Anyway,
all right.
And the second album is straight through cover version of Back in Black, as in the whole album from AC/DC, done in 6 Feet Under style. Covers are fun for me. So I haven't come across a lot of bad ones, but then again, I'm not looking for bad ones.
That's a good point.
But then again, I might just find out the Nebraska Prunes made a fucking
dude.
They're the not so successful.
Have you heard
cousins.
Have you ever heard the Ohio Dates version of the first Rammstein album? It's pretty great.
They're pretty good. I mean, I prefer the. I was going for something and I couldn't find it. But anyway, Bananagrams. That's what we're gonna end with. But anyway,
let's just call this one a podcast. It's pretty long.
Yeah, pretty long. A little musical podcast for you. But anyway, this has been Ahab and the Goontick chatting some fucking tune talk. And I guess we're out. Hit like, share, subscribe, the little notification buttons. Tell us what kind of music you like, what music we should be listening to, and we're out.
This music, stupid sounds, all kinds of shit for you. Anything goes inside tonight, don't look up a corpulent juice. Movies, music, stupid sounds, all kinds of shit for you.